Yesterday, my friend, 'cause I know how good
Still going.
it has been. Facing forever, here I stand, come what may. Bring the old, bring the new, yesterday.
Yes. Is it over? No, it's not. Sasaki says nothing that a few loot boxes can't fix. Really randomized loot boxes. Oh, that's right. This is an old game.
I'll find the joyfulness I'm looking for way back.
Oh my god. Ugh. Yeah, so let's be honest here. Let's be honest here, right? For someone who loves the Metal Gear series, is going to replay this game a million times, learn all the nuances of the game, the tricks, the ins and outs of the game. You know, you bought this game for, what was it, $50 back then? If you're going to replay the game 20 times, beat it on expert mode, big boss mode, whatever the fuck it's called. And even as I was playing the game, people were like, did you know this boss, you could do this and this and these. Then the game's worth it. But for someone who's like, someone like me, a casual gamer, I'm just gonna sit down and just play the game once. It's not very good, in my opinion. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, the gameplay isn't even consistent. It's not even like you can learn one part of the game and get better at it, because the game just constantly mixes up what it expects you to do. Every boss fight's fucking different. The sneaking gameplay isn't even the same throughout the entirety of the game. It's just really bizarre. And like I said, there's so little gameplay in it, too. There's actually so little gameplay in it compared to the story, that it feels to me like, almost like, again, like I've said this before, Kojima wanted to tell epic stories. He didn't care about the games. He wanted to make these epic, fun stories that could have been episodic content or like an anime series or whatever, but instead he made video games. And when you really look at the gameplay of this game, it's like, eh. You know what you gotta do? You look at games like this, they compare it to like what the final game in the series, Metal Gear Solid 5. Metal Gear Solid 5 had a great story and lots of cutscenes like this, but also had ridiculous amounts of robust gameplay mixed in, while these early Metal Gears don't have that at all. You know? It's more like the gameplay took a backseat to the cutscenes of the story. And I get that, and I understand why people like the game. For me, it's kind of like, eh. I'm never gonna be the kind of gamer who loves a game like this, is gonna hold it up in massively high regard, and is gonna say it's one of the best games ever, only because I'm looking for a mix, and this game doesn't really have it, in my opinion. Again, unless you're the kind of person you fell in love with the game so much you're gonna replay it 400 times to learn every nuance of the gameplay and everything, then I can understand. But anyway, we're not done.
Life isn't just about passing on your genes.
We're not done.
We can leave behind much more than just DNA. Through speech, music, literature, and movies, what we've seen, heard, felt, anger, joy, and sorrow. These are the things I will pass on. That's what I live for. We need to pass the torch and let our children read our messy and sad history by its light. We have all the magic of the digital age to do that with. The human race will probably come to an end sometime, and new species may rule over this planet. Earth
like
may
the
not
squirrel.
be forever,
The
but
fucking
we still
squirrel.
have the responsibility to leave what traces of life we can. Building the future and keeping the past alive are one and the same thing.
Yes.
Snake, you there?
Oh,
It's me. I've finished going over that disc.
Did you find the Patriots list?
No, it's just gay porn. Why'd you give me this?
It contains the personal data of 12 people. There was a name on it. Snake, it was one of our biggest contributors.
What's going on around here?
I don't know.
Anyway, where are they?
Well, we were right about them being on Manhattan, but
But what?
They're already dead. All 12 of them.
When did it happen?
Well, about 100 years ago.
What the hell?
What a twist. Yeah, but then we find out Metal Gear Solid 4, they're not dead. That even though they were dead, they were kept alive as a hive mind, remember? They were kept alive as a hive mind that basically, was still controlling things behind the scenes, and they were waiting for technology to advance to the point where they could control everything virtually. And that's what the plot of the fourth game's about, going to destroy them, if you destroy the Patriots. So, what's the rank? Doesn't say. There is no rank. Elephants, what I got my first playthrough. It's exactly what I got the first playthrough. Ooh, I got a gold trophy, a cut above. Ooh, digital camera, you could use it in the tanker episode. And in the plant episode. I already found it in the plant episode, but... Alright, I guess we'll save. Yes. How long did it take me to beat that? Like 14 hours? Something like that. Yeah, 14 hours. 14 hours, but it's like, ugh. 14 hours with 10 hours of cutscenes. Literally, that's what I mean when I say that. Like, I'm not saying this is a bad game at all. If you're someone who's really enjoyed the game so much, you want to go back and replay it like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times to find all the nuances of the gameplay. I'm sure speedruns of this game are probably fucking nuts, right? There's probably ways you can work around shit to beat stuff real fast. Like people were telling me during boss fights, they were like, now if Phil only knew you could have done this exploit and this, you could beat that boss so easily or whatever. Not to say that the bosses are hard. You saw how easily I beat all of them anyway. But basically, this game, like I said, if you're just going to play it casually once through, it's like, nah, it doesn't even feel like it's enough of a game, honestly. And like I said, a lot of the things, like for example, that Metal Gear Ray fight, nothing in the game up to that point is like that whatsoever, right? It's completely unique and different from the rest of the game. That's what I mean. Most video games, you have a core gameplay mechanic that becomes the core of the game, and then you have, maybe some variations, but mostly there's a core mechanic you get better at and progressively better at the more you play the game. Metal Gear Solid 2 isn't even like that. It's like you start off as an introductory level with Snake, then you go straight to Raiden, things are already different. Then you're doing some kind of sneaky gameplay for like 2 hours. You're like, okay. Then all of a sudden, everything's there. Boss fight that has nothing to do with anything. This has nothing to do with anything. You know what I mean? It's just so odd. And it's weird because as the series carried on, it changed. It wasn't like that anymore. Like Metal Gear Solid 3 is a lot more consistent. Metal Gear Solid 4, 5, a lot more consistent with a core gameplay mechanic that you have to get better at over the course of the game. 2 is just like bizarre to me. It really is. It just feels bizarre. And again, that's not meaning that's bad. It just means that it's so different. So I can understand there's people who love this game, but I'll be honest with everyone, like out of all the Metal Gear Solid games, I think probably 2 is my least favorite. Because it's just such an oddity. It's such a weird game. And it's so weird because you would have expected that like the third or fourth installment, maybe Kojima wants to do something different. No, it's the sequel. The sequel to the game that was like a bestseller, he decides to do something so weird and different, right? But then it's weird because then he goes back. Like I said, 3, 4, and 5 end up being a lot more consistent than 2. So maybe he learned his lesson with 2 and he says, man, I want to do something that's a little bit more mainstream. I don't know. But I mean, like I said, I really do think this, for me, personally, my personal likes and dislikes, I think I dislike this one the most out of all the Metal Gear games. But it's certainly not a bad game. Like I said, it's fun to play through and mess around with, to see the plot for the first time. The uniqueness, again, the nuances you could probably find in the game, I'm sure are pretty cool. But for me, it's kind of like, nah, I don't know. It's weird because some people say Metal Gear Solid 2 is the worst because Raiden's the protagonist. I don't think that's the case. I have no problem with Raiden being the protagonist. I have a problem with the game just being everywhere. It's all over the place. It doesn't feel like you're playing the same game as you play the game, Just think about it. So first, you're Snake, and you're learning basic sneaking like Metal Gear. But then you're Raiden, and it changes up a little bit. Then you start getting items and stuff with Raiden like guns. Now it feels more like Metal Gear. Then you're swimming underwater, but you only do it twice. It really does. You know what I mean? That's weird. Every boss fight is such an oddball boss fight. Some boss fights, like the one against Fortune, isn't even a real boss fight. You just got to survive. And you don't know that. Again, it kind of just defies the conventions of what you expect in a normal video game to the point where it's really weird. It's really weird. I don't know. I'll tell you this. I think I like the game more now than the first time I played it. Because remember, the first time that I played Metal Gear Solid 2, it was the first Metal Gear I had actually played. I take that back. I had played Metal Gear Solid 4. But I hadn't played 1, 3, 5, Peace Walker. I didn't have that under my belt. So when I played it, I didn't understand where kind of the place it was in the timeline. I really didn't like Metal Gear Solid 2 the first time that I played it. I was more frustrated with it than anything else. At least this time playing it, I can appreciate it more. And as you saw, even though there were a few parts of the game that were rage-inducing, it was few and far between. The first time I played it, I fucking was so angry. Because I was like, what is this game expecting me to fucking do for a first run? Not understanding the gameplay or the mechanics. Like, how the fuck am I supposed to, you know, do this? How am I supposed to figure this out, right? But I will say this, you know, again, it has a place in history. I can understand why someone would love this game and hold it with the high amount of regard that maybe they do. I can definitely understand that. So, all right, so that is it for my second ever run through Metal Gear Solid 2. At this point, 6.5 years between playthroughs. Will I ever go back and play Metal Gear Solid 2 again? I would say this. The only reason I would maybe ever go back and play Metal Gear Solid 2 again would be one of two things. Either number one, for some reason in the future, I decided to go back to games that could lend themselves to challenge runs really well. Like, go through and do it this way or that way, maybe. Or if they remade it in like a modernized collection. Like, for example, they're remaking Final Fantasy VII right now. Imagine if they remade the original Metal Gear games to a modernized collection. The problem is, we already know that's never going to happen. Because, sadly, Konami fired Kojima and all of his team. And even though they own the rights to the Metal Gear games, they're never going to do anything good with them again. Konami has fallen out as a game developer. They suck now. They make fucking pachinko games instead of video games. So it kind of sucks because now it's kind of like this is the last hurrah. This is the final version of these games you're going to play is the HD collection versions of 2 and 3. Or, you know, like, for example, Metal Gear Solid 5, they had that final collection with everything in it. I don't know. It's kind of depressing. It really is depressing. What happened with Metal Gear. So, all right, that's it for my second run ever. Metal Gear Solid 2. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you being here and checking it out.